You're told to max out your 401k, but when you retire, you're actually going to spend more in taxes than you save today. And that's the dirty truth. You're told that the opposite is going to happen, but that's not really the way it's going to happen. Your tax-deferred savings today are going to be a tax-deferred liability tomorrow. In this video, I'm going to break down why the wealthy don't use 401ks and what they do instead. Because if you wait until retirement, it's going to be too late to fix it. I help clients solve their problems now, not 30 years from now. "401ks are a tax-deferred time bomb. You have no idea what taxes are going to be in the future. Unfortunately, we get sold this idea that our taxes are going to be less in the future because you're going to be making less money. Except that might not be the case. Is the government going to be spending more or less in the future? Probably more. They're spending more than they've ever spent ever. We have almost $37 trillion of debt as a country. And they're going to keep spending money because they have to. They're already so far in debt, they're not going to stop. And as a business owner, which the government is really just a business, there's only two ways to decrease your debt, which is to increase your income or stop spending so much. And we just established they're not going to stop spending so much, so they have to increase their income. And what's the government's income? It's taxes. And so they have to increase their taxes. And the only way to do that is to charge us, the common citizens, the common person, more money in taxes. Guess what the highest tax bracket that it's ever been in America is? And I bet you that you've never guessed this before. It's 94%. 94% in 1944. And if you look at the taxes during World War II, they slowly creeped up and then boom. And then they made it only for the super wealthy. And then they made it for the kind of wealthy. And then they made it for like only making $200,000. And yeah, $200,000 back then was like making almost $1 million today. But still, you're taxing 94%, and we think taxes are high today, and the current tax bracket is the highest at 37%. This is just not the way that it's going to be. And so I don't care what your financial advisor, your brother, or your mother, or whoever you take financial advice from says. I personally do not believe that taxes are going to be lower later. They're probably going to be higher because the government's going to have to make more money to pay off the national debt. Otherwise, we're going to fail as a country. Actually, that's what Ray Dalio talks about in this book, The Changing World Order, is how the dynasties throughout the world history have risen and fallen based on debt. This happened during the Roman Empire, it happened during the Dutch Empire, it happened during the British Empire, and it's happening right now with the American Empire. And I live in America, and I'm a proud American citizen. However, I know that we're in a pickle right now. We're in a major pickle. We have a challenge, and most people are blind to it. They're either in denial about it or they don't understand it. But we have a major economic issue. And 401ks are literally just the government's designed plan to have an annuity, a fixed income every single year forever on every single working person in America. That means that they literally get every single time somebody turns 59 and a half or whenever they start taking out money from their 401k, they just have a guaranteed tax income stream because you don't have to just pay taxes on what you put in, which is what they sell you on 401ks, which is stop paying taxes today and you'll kick it down the road till later and you'll be in a less tax bracket. Except even if you're in the same tax bracket or a less tax bracket, you're not just paying taxes on what you put in there, which you would if you did it right now, but you're actually paying taxes on everything that you put in and all of the growth. You pay taxes on the entire harvest, not just the seed. Which would you prefer? Right? This is what they teach us. And so it's tax deferred. You're kicking it down the hill. And instead of just eating it right now and going and growing your capital tax-free, which is what I like to do, you're kicking it down the hill, saving a little bit in taxes today, and you're paying an enormous amount of taxes later. And I don't care if you're retired, you're still going to have a higher tax bracket because the government's not going to get out of a $37 trillion debt without raising taxes. So make sure you're actually knowledgeable and you're not just taking whatever somebody else tells you for word. And I know I'm somebody else just telling you something too, but really look into the facts. And if you understand economics, maybe it's time to rethink your thinking. The wealthy don't play this game. The wealthy don't have big 401ks. Maybe if a high income earning executive might have a big 401k, but when the true wealthy, the ultra wealthy, they don't have 401ks, they don't have IRAs, they don't have tax deferred retirement plans because number one, their whole life isn't built on waiting to retire. And number two is they know how much it costs to wait. Why would you at 30 years old want to wait 30 more years, the entire lifespan that you've been alive? Why would you want to wait to use that money? So you can save a little bit of taxes today? How about you pay a little bit more in taxes today? Or better idea, how about you start a business where you actually can write off your taxes so you don't pay any taxes today and you have access to your money today, and then you can invest in a business or real estate or crypto or I don't really like the stock market, but you could invest in the stock market and do something with your money today so it'll grow way more than you could ever even imagine than the little bit of taxes that you're saving today. And I don't like to pay taxes either. I do my best to avoid as much taxes as possible. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to give the government more money later. It's like, hey, Uncle Sam, I'm going to save a little bit today, but I'll give you a lot more later. You're getting deceived by the government. They're allowing you to save a little today to get way more later. And the wealthy aren't going to play that game. They know how important it is to have money today. The time value of money as the dollar continues to go, and the dollar is not technically going down in value. The purchasing power of the dollar is going down in value. And so as that continues to happen, the value of having money today to spend, to invest, to use, to go buy real tangible assets that you can grow and build wealth around is so much more valuable than the little bit you're going to save. And the wealthy know that game. You go follow any of the top people, every single one of them will say that the 401k is a scam. Every single one of them would tell you to take your money out of your 401k. Every single one of them would say, stop funding this government-sponsored program, which is also a red flag, and start funding your own private program. And there's only a few ways that you can do that. Most of them choose business or real estate, and a lot put money, and banks do this too, put money into cash value life insurance. And you leverage all of these assets to build your wealth. And it's tax-free because it's depreciable assets. And there's just a better way to play the game, and the wealthy know that. The best system for privatizing your money is through cash value life insurance policy, dividend paying whole life insurance, not just any cash value life insurance policy, not universal life policies. And you can see any of my other videos to see why that's the case. But the reality is that infinite banking through dividend paying whole life through a mutual life insurance company is going to be the best place to store your wealth. And it is not a good place to invest your wealth because it's not an investment. Life insurance is not an investment. Anybody that you see that's talking about it as an investment, it is not an investment. Now, the word invest just simply means to put your money into. So if you're investing your money into your policy, that can be taken as putting your money into something. You can invest your money into yourself. That doesn't mean you have to be securities licensed to be able to say that you invested in a personal development plan and that now you're a blah, 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 blah. No, the reality is that you can invest into your policy and use that money for investments. Right? And so you want to be able to use that. Whole life insurance is tax-free, able to be leveraged against instead of liquidating, and you have access to it now. You don't have to wait 30 years till you turn 59 and a half. You don't have to pay taxes on all of the money that you grew in your policy. You can grow that money tax-free. You can't do that in stocks if you want to use it. You can't do that in crypto if you want to use it. You can't do that in real estate if you sell it and you don't do a 1031 exchange. Every other asset, you have to pay taxes on the growth. And with life insurance, you can leverage against the growth. So you never have to pay taxes and you can use it or borrow against it is the proper terminology. And the reality is this way you become the banker. I mean, banking is the most important business in the world. Without it, all business would come to a screeching halt. That's a quote from Nelson Nash's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. And it's important. The bankers have the most money. He who has the gold makes the rules, and you want to be the banker. You want to be the person that controls the wealth. You want to be the person that's making money off of interest. And in the case of infinite banking, you are the banker, you own the bank, and you're the depositor at the bank. So you're going to the bank, talking to the banker to borrow from the banker and charging the person interest and paying that interest back to the bank. And all three of those parties are you. And it's hard to change your mind. It's hard to think different. It's hard to take off your consumer hat when you've been brainwashed by Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman and all of these financial gurus that are telling you that debt is bad, that interest is bad, that whole life is a scam, and you're listening to the wrong people. I'm telling you, you're listening to the wrong people, because when you start thinking like a banker, everything changes. To a consumer, interest is bad. Interest is a liability, right? But interest is an asset to a bank. And so if you are becoming a banker, if you are thinking like a banker, that way you actually are receiving additional premiums into your life insurance policy that they call interest, but they're additional premiums into the pool of money of the bank, which is the insurance carrier. And you are a shareholder of this insurance carrier when it's a mutual life insurance company. So you're sharing in the benefits of that. They're giving a return of premium. It does not mean that you overpaid your premium. It is a return of all of the premiums, and all of the premiums after all the expenses is returning the premiums. The leftover, the profitable premiums are distributed out to the shareholders, which are the policyholders, in the form of dividends. And when you really understand whole life insurance, there is nothing out there that can even come close to competing. And if you have something, I would love to learn more about it, but I am deep down the rabbit hole. I've read a ton of books, hundreds of books on money and finance, and I haven't found anything yet that even comes close to the freedom, the liquidity, and the flexibility that a whole life insurance policy has. And when you combine it with using the infinite banking concept as the process for how to control the flow of your money, you absolutely put yourself in a winning situation. A real client that I've assisted with this process, I've known them for over 10 years. They're a couple, great people, love them very much. And they had almost $300,000 in an old 401k, and he wanted to put it into life insurance. Well, if you do that, you're going to have to pay the taxes and fees because he's only 40-something years old. And we decided that it was probably best for him to not just cash it out, which some situations it might be. If you really believe wholeheartedly in infinite banking and believe in yourself and you know you're going to make more money, it might be worth it to just cut your losses, pay the taxes, pay the fees now. But I am not a financial advisor. I am not a CPA, and I'm not an attorney. So whatever disclaimer I have to have, those are decisions that you should make for yourself without my advice, yada, yada. However, if you roll that money, an old 401k, into an annuity, well, then you eliminate the fees that the 401k company is charging you. You eliminate the volatility of the ups and downs of the market, and you keep your money in a safe, still tax deferred place called an annuity. And then instead of cashing that out, we just kept that money there for the future. And then instead of putting $2,000-$3,000 a month into their 401ks, this couple was putting almost $3,000 a month combined into their 401ks. We just took that money, their cash flow, and started funding 2 overfunded whole life insurance policies. We also put a $50,000 into the husband's policy and $30,000 into the wife's policy in cash that they just had in savings. So we overfunded it even more. And we've assisted the client with, instead of funding the 401ks, fund whole life insurance policies. And we've helped them pay off their home equity line of credit, pay off 2 cars for their family, pay off 3 personal credit cards. They've grown their business from $10,000 to $30,000 a month, and they've refinanced everything in their life. And this creates ultimate freedom, ultimate flexibility, and they have a totally different outlook on life because they were willing to rethink their thinking. This is absolutely key. And this is just one situation. A lot of our clients will just redirect their 401k contributions into a whole life policy. If you still work at the same company and you're under 55 years old and sometimes 59 and a half years old, you can't get rid of your 401k at the current company that you work at. There are options if you have an old 401k from a previous company, but if you literally work at the same company, it is locked until you are ready to retire. You do not have access to that money. And if you do, you get penalized and taxed, and a lot of companies don't actually allow you to do that. So it is super important to understand, like, why would you ever put your money into something that you have to leave there, that you pay more taxes on later? You pay taxes on all of the growth and everything that you put in, and it's locked up, and you have absolutely nothing to do with it. And Uncle Sam is your partner in business for life. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to put my money in there. And if you don't take it out at 73 as of 2025, you are required to take minimum distributions so that by the time that you die, your entire account is drained back to zero. Zippo, nothing. That way, who benefits? The government. They're going to get their money no matter what, and they're either going to get a little bit now or they're going to get a lot of it later. And I'd rather either give them a little bit now or learn how to be a business owner and write off my taxes so I give them nothing now, or buy depreciating assets like real estate to give them nothing now, than giving them a guaranteed annuity stream for the rest of your life for all the hard work that you put into your life and business and job. So what can you do now? The first thing to do is to have a conversation with somebody to figure out a macro bird's eye view of all of your financial situations. You want to figure out the tax implications and how tax heavy all of the different investments that you have are, and also how volatile all the investments that you have are. I know a lot of people tell you that when you're young, you should have all your money in the market. I just don't believe in that. Warren Buffett's number one rule of money is don't lose your money. So you want to assess really your tolerance. The question is, how much of your money do you want to pay taxes on? And how much of your money do you want to have locked up? And how much of your money are you okay with losing if the market goes down 20, 30, or 40%? Because it does every 7 to 10 years. For me, I don't want to pay any taxes. I don't want to have any of it in the market. And I don't want to worry about any of these fees and situations happening. So I want to control my money. I don't want to have any of it locked up. I want to have access to it now, tax-free, and not have to worry about any of the volatility. So when the market or Bitcoin or anything goes up, down, left, right, or sideways, I'm sitting there knowing cool, calm, and collected that my money's consistently growing every single year. And this is something that you want to assess. Again, look at where you're at. Look at figuring out what you can do. Look at where your money is going and talk to a financial professional, a financial strategist that's going to assist you with understanding what you have and actually know the situations, know the products. And if you don't, do the research, read the books, watch the videos, have the conversations, and take back control of your finances, because you worked too hard to give all your money to someone else's bank and the government to take it away from you and not take that money into your pocket and leave it behind to your family.